Swings nice and easy. Single, click. And the door is unlatched. Hi, Ian Cowie, back at the Jetta Ute. Today I'm working on getting the fuel door into the fender, making it all fit. So, first thing I do, I've got the door here. You can see I made the cut here. I'll take that out. Okay. So the gas door has this hinge box on the back of the door, on the side of the door, and it's very, very tight between here and of course where the fender lip will be. Once you put the fiberglass on here and here, back in here, there's no room for this. So I had to make the cutout here and up here to fit that in behind, so that wouldn't interfere once it's on the fiberglass. Okay, so one of the deals with the Jetta Ute is when you're working on the gas door, the first thing basically they say is disconnect the lock mechanism and throw it away. Well, I didn't like that idea. It came with the car, it's now a truck, but I think it's useful to have, and it's part of it. So what I'm going to do here, you can see, is I've taken this piece that holds the latch mechanism and I cut it out and I've trimmed it down, so it's just a piece of metal. The raised part of it that was here, I cut it out first. I've since trimmed it back. I've then taken the fiberglass here, which is quite thick, and I've taken my die grinder and I've gone down approximately the thickness of the wheel, which is about the thickness of the metal. So I've gone down here and then just used a little saw and nibbled it a little bit here, just in the corners where obviously I couldn't reach with the grinder. So now I have it set so that this piece will be able to mount right in here. I'll probably put a bit of epoxy on there and possibly a rivet up here and a rivet down here, a flush rivet on there. And then this piece will then, of course, slide right where it's supposed to be. Here. The little piston, lock piston, slides right in here. So once it's up in place, I hope there's enough play in here. I haven't checked this yet. That'll be the next thing. Hopefully there's enough play that it'll come forward enough, because this fender is proud of the original location by a slight amount. And this will sit on here, and the door will screw into the existing screw that was the existing mount, which is also part of this piece. It's not only lock, it's also the mounting screw, so that will fit right on there. And then the gas door will screw right on there in the right spot. So hopefully that's the plan. And when we get to gluing that in and riveting, I'll show you how that ended up. Final cut, this notch in here, is to allow clearance. This is the actual solenoid, and the solenoid mounts down on this bracket. Two screws on the back, pushes in and slides, locks in there. This would be the original location. If you look at the top, this is the original location of the solenoid. But because the gas door isn't going to be on the metal fender, but it's going to be moved out by about 3/4 or an inch out onto the fiberglass, this piston rod is in the wrong position. So by loosening it here, and I'm going to space it, put spacer back in here, and relocate it. So instead of on here, out to here, and you can see this is why I had to, this is originally was a hole in here. This is now a slot, so this is going to bring this forward, and this solenoid will mount, instead of flush, there'll be about a 20 or 25 millimeter spacer in here, about an inch spacer, and that will bring this rod right out to the front. A little hard to see. Let's see, so instead of back in here, the rod is now going to be here. So the other trick when before you drill and rivet that relocated piece, the relocated latch mechanism, make sure you get the bucket in and get it centered, and critical is that your top and bottom gaps, you want to get those to be the same. When I first did it, I had it cockeyed because I had the latch here down too low or too high, whatever. So I had to I'd drill it out and relocate it to the right place. So get that in place, centered top and bottom, and then carefully, what I did is just kind of reached in here, and I had this, of course I had the fiberglass not in place here, I had it up on top. Reach in here just with a screwdriver and just hold that metal plate, okay? And as you're holding that metal plate with a screwdriver here, with the other hand, of course I'm using my camera for the other hand, but pull this bucket out, and then that plate should stay in the right place. I mean, the other way would be to carefully measure it. So you want to make sure that this plate is in the right place, because that's going to be very critical to get your gap in your gas cap lid perfectly centered. Okay? Because of the fit in back of the hinge here, this has to fit in this fiberglass lip. So the fiberglass fits, you can see, in this groove. Originally that was just the metal, and the metal is much thinner than the fiberglass. So just take your wheel and just go in there very carefully and just open that groove up a little bit. Just be careful, it's just plastic, so, and you don't want to cut into the, so just take it in there and just open it up a little bit more to make it a little bit wider for this plastic lip in here versus the fiberglass lip rather than the metal lip of the tin. So I had to slot here to clear for this solenoid, which goes back as far as that. Okay, and I had to space the solenoid pretty well right out to the outer skin. I had to, I had to slot. I didn't use as much as I slotted, but I did have to slot the location of these slots. Only went in, 3/4 of an inch or so, but I slotted it quite a bit back, more than I needed to, but I did had to set it back because the fender, the Smyth fender, the fiberglass fender, sits a little farther forward, I think, than the original fender. The only other thing I noticed, because of the way I mounted the solenoid, by bringing it forward, if I hold the camera straight, by bringing it forward, it actually went up because it's not perpendicular, vertical. So as I brought it forward, it went up on the sliding. So what I did is I just went in here and just kind of bent this down a little bit just to get this pin back in the center of the slot. You want it centered on this piece, so when it goes in, you want it you want it centered. Oh, geez, I can't get this camera. Okay, you want it centered here, not up, down, not way up here, not way down here, because if this bar is at the bottom and you're going to be twisting, you're going to have this on here and it's going to be like this and it'll jam. Or if it's up there, this, it'll jam. So you have to have it nice and parallel to the existing, where it used to sit, basically. So you can see I've installed that piece that I mentioned before, and now the pin, this is the little lock pin that retracts with the solenoid. And I'll go back, if you can look close, I'll just zoom in here. So the latch mechanism, be careful with this piece here. I'm gonna have to get a new one actually. If you leave it on this panel, when you remove the panel, it tends to break the two little groove, little slider parts that it slides on this metal here, and they're basically broken. So fortunately, because I'm at a shop here, I can go, there's a bunch of wrecked Volkswagens out back, I can just go steal one off one. So here's the completed fuel door with the latch mechanism all installed so we can use the latch. And I'll just do it quickly. You can see it swings nice and easy. Single, click, and pop the button. And the door is unlatched.